Appreciate it. Can I borrow that? Do I need this or not? Wow. We're on Broadway tonight, man. What a theater. Thank you all so much. Joe, thank you so much for your gracious words. That's as good as it gets. Chairman Doug Long, to you, man, thank you so much for your friendship and support. To all the electeds and candidates here with us tonight, we are with you. We're in this together. We're going to win this thing together. Amen to that. And how about one more time for the softball team? Come on, man. Yeah. Doug, you're killing me having me come up after the softball team. Man, they stole the show. People are starting to leave. Can you blame them? I am so happy to be in Vineland tonight. I cannot tell you how thrilled I am to be here. This has been a long time coming. Cumberland County matters a lot to me personally. I know it matters to you, but I want you to know it matters to me deeply and personally. In so many cases over recent history, as Cumberland County goes, so goes the state of New Jersey. And let's make that happen again this November 7th. Does that sound okay to everybody? I'm thrilled. By the way, it's my bad that I haven't gotten here sooner. We tried this a couple of times, and it's all on my back. And so I'm thrilled to be here tonight. I may even be moved to utter a couple of phrases in Spanish, so please bear with me. That sounds good until you find out I don't speak Spanish, but I'm gonna give it my shot here, right? Me llamo Phil Murphy. So there we go. Listen, we're rocking it. We obviously have several hundred. How nice is this theater, huh? Wow. This is an iconic theater in this, not just this community, in this county, but in this state. I'm incredibly humbled to be here tonight. I want to tell you that not only are we here, several hundred of us here together, but we are streaming Facebook Live, Jenny Davis. Is that right? So where's the camera for Facebook? In the back. Everybody wave up to our friends on Facebook back there. And we also have gone out to folks on the telephone, so they're listening in. So a couple of housekeeping matters. If you got a question, you got these cards near you? Do you? So if you do, just when you have them, I saw a gentleman down here. If you've got it filled out, just raise your hand and one of our team will come out and take it from you. And we'll try to get to some of those questions tonight. We're really good at following up. I'm proud of that. So if we don't get to you tonight, and we won't get to all of you, we'll come back. Does that sound okay? Which is why you got to fill in your details. Make sure we know how to find you. Email is great. Cell, street address, someplace we can track you down. The second housekeeping matter is, because we have folks on Facebook and we have folks listening in on the telephone, when it does come time for question and answer, make sure you wait till you get a microphone. Does that sound all right with everybody? Get that right up to your hood. How many, Sam, you in charge tonight? How many people on the phone right now? Okay, so not bad for a Tuesday night. And by the way, the last night of my 50s. Tomorrow's my 60th birthday, man. Heck's breaking loose. Exactly. Lou, I'm still fighting, man, I promise you. Listen, here's what I thought I would do quickly. Spend 30 seconds on the race. Spend 30 seconds on who the heck I am, although Joe gave me an extraordinarily gracious introduction. And a minute on how we see New Jersey. And on the how we see New Jersey part, I want to jump to that for 1 second and just say, if we can get New Jersey going again, and I believe with all my heart we can, I can make a strong argument that no county will benefit more than Cumberland County. I can make that strong argument. So that's jumping ahead. Let me give you 30 seconds on the race. By the way, they'll love the medals, ladies, as well. Not only is the softball team rocking, but they got the house seats here, which they deserve. If I stumble on any questions, would one of you mind coming up to help me answer them? Okay, maybe not. So I won the primary on June 6th, so I am officially the Democratic nominee for the governor of New Jersey. That's a good thing. There's good news and there's less good news, and there's probably a little bit more good than not, but let me just give you a quick sense of things. First of all, good news. We won convincingly. We won with about as many votes as the entire Republican field combined. Probably a good sign. Turnout was very high. That might be due to the fact people liked what I was saying or any of the 5 folks I ran against who were very qualified. Frankly, a lot more with Chris Christie, Kim Guadagno fatigue, and anger and anxiety over our president and what's happening in Washington generally. That really drove people out. You probably see it. This is an interesting county, by the way, because you have different dynamics locally than you do at the county level. For instance, I know there are big elections this year. All commissioners in Millville are up. That's one that matters a lot to our party. We'll be watching that one closely. Doug, in many respects, as that goes, so goes our aspirations around the county. So this is a county where you see different impulses depending on the community you're in and also where you are on the ballot. But we saw folks in particular in the red parts of the state come out in size like never before because of this anxiety about what's going on in our country. I'll come back to that maybe in a little bit. So that's all good news. The early polls, by the way, are good. The public polls are probably better than we think they are in private. So if you stop right there, people say to me all the time, are you in a good place? I say, yeah, I think we're in a good place. I also thought the Brits were going to stay in Europe and Hillary Clinton was going to get elected president of the United States. So my opinion of the place we're in doesn't much matter. So we woke up on the morning after that election on June 7th and said, you know what? We're dropping the hammer. We're not taking one thing for granted. So we're going to turn over every stone. We're going to scrap for every vote, every dollar, every policy idea, big and small, and most importantly, I'm running for governor of all 21 counties in this state. You have my word. To put the challenge in a little bit of a different light, we won with about 250,000 votes in the primary. We think we need to find another 1 million votes to win the general. Another 1 million. And it's less than 3 months away. So that's a pretty big hill to climb, and so we are locked in and we're going at it every single day. And the honor that you have in my position to be at the top of the ballot with the folks that I'm calling my company, as my mother used to remind me, my late mother, you're known by the company you keep, whether it's the freeholder, whether it's Assemblyman Land who's here, whether it's any of you running for freeholder or council or mayor or board of education, or not just the legislative district number 1, but legislative district number 3 in this county. Whoever it may be, we have a rockin' ballot from top to bottom. And it's incredibly imperative this year to not just win this thing, but to bring as many like-minded brothers and sisters across the goal line with us, because this state's in crisis, and no one person can change that reality. We need to do that together. Another reason why I'm incredibly honored to be here tonight. I'm going to take my coat off here. Well, easy now. Easy, easy. Back off, everybody. It ain't working too well there. Okay. It's a little warm here, I think you would agree. No, I'm good. God knows. I'm feeling every bit of the 60 years right now, man. I went for a run this morning, and I almost had to call for help. So 30 by the way, I'm not going to go any further than this, I promise you, but that's much better. Okay, here we go. Now we can talk. 30 seconds on me. I'm born in Boston. Please don't hold that against me. All right? And I got nothing against the Philadelphia Eagles. I want you to know that. I want to get that off my chest. Grew up in a family, my youngest of 4. My dad did not get out of high school. My mom did. She made sure we went to college. She made sure we cared about the community, politics, and service. We were working poor. We all worked. I worked under the table at the age of 13. I slept in my parents' bedroom till I was 9. We all worked. That wasn't the issue. We just didn't make enough money. But interestingly enough, and this is a point that we should all spend a second on, I grew up in a different America. An imperfect America, but a different America. An America where the deal was if you went to school, you got good grades, you stayed in school, you stayed out of trouble, you were going to do at least better than mom and dad, if not go all the way to the top. Barack Obama grew up in a similar America and went all the way to the top. And if you ask me what's the one single reason you're running for governor, it's because I don't think that little kid today in that working poor family in this state, or certainly not in poverty, and frankly too often not in the middle class, can put that same deal in the bank. And so if for no other reason, that's why I'm standing up here and running for governor. Public school product, proud public school product, by the way. Harvard College. I used to say I got an MBA at Wharton until my wife reminded me that he who shall not be named went to Wharton. So I now have gussied that up a little bit, and I say I have a master's degree from the University of Pennsylvania. Sounds a lot more elegant. Worked in banking for 20 years in New York, in Germany, in Asia, back to New York, and left business about 14 years ago, almost exactly. I then did a collection of things. I served proudly until recently on the national board of the NAACP. I served as the national finance chair for the Democratic Party, for the Democratic National Committee, and in fact raised a lot of the money that got Barack Obama elected president of the United States of America. By the way, I already love the guy, but is he looking better and better by the second, or is it me? I mean, holy mackerel. Adult supervision needed ASAP. We live, my wife Tammy and I just celebrated our 23rd wedding anniversary. We live in Monmouth County, the northern part of the shore. We have 4 children. Josh is 20. Emma is turning 18 the day after tomorrow. Charlie's 16. Sam is turning 14 on Friday. So 3 birthdays in a row. My wife, I think, has just left the country. So we have 20, almost 18, 16, almost 14. So if nothing else tonight, may I ask you a favor? Please keep me in your prayers. So we live in Monmouth County. There I chaired the board of one of the best domestic violence organizations, I think, in the state, called 180 Turning Lives Around. My wife and I started a teen helpline there called Second Floor, which is now statewide. By the way, my wife would be with us tonight, but she is headlining an event herself on behalf of Senate candidate Vin Gopal, who's a good friend and I think has a real shot at winning in the 11th district. I chaired the original commission on pension and health care benefits for public sector employees in the state. I co-chaired a national task force for public education in the 21st century, and ultimately I served as the United States ambassador to the Federal Republic of Germany. Reverend, good evening. Under President Obama. We kept our house. We came back to New Jersey, long story short, 4 years ago, and found a state, in particular through the lens of the middle class, that had been hollowed out. And so for the first time in my life and our lives, we started kicking the tires on potentially running for office. We kicked them for over 2 years. We started a couple of organizations just in case we had decided not to run. We didn't want to look like we were selfishly only out for ourselves. So we started one organization, for instance, focuses on long-term unemployed to get them back into the workforce. We have among the biggest cohorts of folks who have been out of work for more than 6 months in the United States. And so we started those organizations and ultimately made the decision to jump in this race. We jumped in early, a year ago May, under the very simple calculus that nobody knew who I was. Couldn't pick me out of a lineup. So we figured with a longer runway, we'd meet more people. It's that simple. And it turned out to be, we've made some clunker decisions, but that turns out to have been probably the most important decision we made, and that brings us up to date to today. So a minute on New Jersey, if I may, before we throw it open to what's on your mind. I say this in every room I'm in, and tonight is no exception. If we don't get the economy right, we don't get New Jersey right, period. You know, we have a lot of other needs in this state, but if we can't find the resources to fund the programs for the folks who need government the most, it won't matter. We've got to get this economy right. And with all due respect to my opponent, with all due respect to the governor, the economy is not right. We have among the weakest economies by many measures in the country. I would cite just 3 data points. Number 1, we've been downgraded by the rating agencies 11 straight times. Last year on record was an all-time increase in household income in America. We finished 50 out of 50. We lead the nation in foreclosed homes. Atlantic County leads all counties with foreclosed homes in America. So those are the facts. And by the way, I'm an optimist. I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer, but let's not argue about what the facts are. As the late Daniel Patrick Moynihan once said, we're all entitled to our own opinion. We're not entitled to our own facts. Those are the facts. The question now is, what do we do about those facts? And I mentioned we got to get the economy right. When we say that, when I say that and think that through, getting the economy right is both growing the economy and making it fair again. And under this administration, we neither grow enough nor are we fair. In fact, we're profoundly unfair. And as I mentioned a minute ago, if we can get the economy right and get both of those pieces of the puzzle right, I could argue that no county in this state will benefit more than this one. Now, how do we grow it? I think we reignite a couple of the economies that we used to dominate. The 2 that come to mind for me are the innovation economy and the infrastructure economy. In the first instance, you could make a very credible argument that we were Silicon Valley before there was a Silicon Valley. Think about it. Bell Labs, Sarnoff Labs. Think of RCA in Camden. Bio, healthcare, telecom, AT&T, life sciences. The evidence is up and down our arms. Now, I'm an optimist on reigniting that economy. Why? Well, 1, we've done it before. That's probably a good sign. 2, we have all the pieces of that puzzle before us, except for the leadership piece that understands how you knit that together. And thirdly, and this is kind of a perverse source of optimism, unlike when they stopped making cars in the Northeast United States, that largely went to right-to-work states in the South, places like South Carolina or Alabama or Tennessee. The innovation economy, when it's left New Jersey, and too much of it has left New Jersey, most of that economy went to other states that look like us. And that gives me optimism. I'll give you an example. Massachusetts, where I was born, they share a lot of the same attributes that we do, right? They're Northeast, dense, highly educated, lots of legacy issues, as expensive, if frankly not more expensive than New Jersey, and notwithstanding all of that in the innovation economy, they're cleaning our clock right now. And so that gives me a lot of I say, listen, we got dealt the same hand they did. Frankly, I think we got dealt a better hand. Top 3 public schools in the country, top 3 educated workforce in America, right? The densest state in America. Now that gives you a big challenge with the environment, but it gives you a big leg up on the tech and telecom economies. We are the most diverse state in the country, and Vineland is a great example of that. We wear that as a badge of honor. Look at historically the infrastructure that we've been able to rely on. Look at our location, sitting between the world's largest market in New York and one of the largest in the country in Philadelphia, and all the stuff and people that flow through us every day. That gives us that's a huge advantage in that STEM or innovation economy. I mentioned the infrastructure economy. That to me is simpler. It's basically taking advantage completely of our God-given location, the location that 49 other states would die to swap in with us for. And that means investment in doing the stuff we used to do so well that we no longer do, which is investing in things like ports, in our bi-state relationships, whether it's Pennsylvania or New York, roads, bridges, tunnel, rail. I want to get this off my chest, by the way. If you're the 4th smallest state in the country, which we are, and you're the densest state in the nation, which we are, and you sit, as I mentioned a minute ago, beside the largest market in the world and among the largest in the country, you would think if you screwed everything else up, literally, the one thing you would get right would be commuter rail. Apparently not. And by the way, we shouldn't be terribly surprised. You know, the Christie Guadagno administration has cut the state's support for NJ Transit by 90%. That's 90, not 19. Fares have gone up by 36% during their time. The ARC Tunnel up north was canceled. The organization has been filled up with folks who don't necessarily have a transit or commuter or rail background. We get probably what we deserve. That's one example, unfortunately, of many of a failure of leadership. And I would just say this, I'm not partisan for the sake of being partisan, and I'm not taking shots at people for the sake of taking shots. We cannot afford another term of this leadership in this state. I know that for sure. So I mentioned we got to grow the economy and we got to make it fair again. Growing it, I think, on the back of the STEM or innovation and infrastructure economies, fairness. I wish there was one signing ceremony on the deck of the aircraft carrier where you could say, you know what, we're fair, we can move on. Unfortunately, there isn't. But I do believe there are a series of what seem to be small steps that when added together can have the cumulative impact of making us a lot fairer faster than we may think. So what's on that list? Minimum wage going to $15 an hour. By the way, I have to thank you for your extraordinary effort here. I should have thanked you earlier. You and I met earlier, but I didn't realize you were going to do this tonight. So let's hear it right here, folks. This is minimum wage to 15. Earn sick leave, not just for some, but for everybody. Child dependent care tax credit. I hope we can find the money for a caregiver tax credit for mom, dad, or grandma or grandpa. College affordability. There was this is north of here, admittedly, but over the turnpike in the winter and early spring when kids were making decisions about colleges, there was a big billboard above the turnpike from the University of Maine at Orono. Anybody go to University of Maine at Orono? Sir? Please don't be offended by this. It's nothing personal, okay? It's a great school. The billboard said, come on up and give us a look. Our out-of-state tuition is lower than your in-state tuition. I said, come on, man. I said to someone recently, we're going to go one of two ways here. We're either going to change that math or we're going to burn the billboard down. Forgive me. Or both. But come on. Investing in higher ed is the central chess piece, puzzle piece of that STEM economy. Every study will tell you that. If you had to pick one step that Massachusetts took, it was heavy investment in higher ed. So let's make college more affordable again. How about this one? Equal pay for equal work. Right now, again, these are the pesky facts that that my opponent and the governor choose not to highlight. Right now, a woman on average earns 80 cents on the dollar of what a man earns in this state for the exact same work. If you are an African-American woman, it's less than 60. And if you're a Latina, it's less than 50. Now, there are laws that other states have enacted that close that gap meaningfully. What are we missing? We're missing a governor, and apparently a lieutenant governor, who cares about closing that gap. They don't care. I will. Another one on my fairness list, and this is an important one, and it's not a direct dollars and cents one, but it has a huge impact on our society and our economy, and that is comprehensive criminal justice reform, which we desperately need. I say this probably as much, if not more, as a recently stepped down national board member of the NAACP than I do as a candidate for governor, but we have the widest white, non-white gap of persons incarcerated in the United States of America, which is hard to believe, right? When I first heard this, I said, come on, New Jersey in 2017? It can't be. It is. A lot of that relates to low-end drug crime. It's the social justice reason that drives me to legalization of marijuana, by the way, not the economic benefit. But it's beyond that. It's a much more complex reality, whether it's solitary confinement or kids who are failed before they ever get to the system, or folks who are failed when they leave the system and are never given the right resources and support to recover. Whatever it might be, we need comprehensive criminal justice reform. So let's grow the economy. Let's make it fair again. I want to raise my hand, if I may, one last thing, and say I want to be the governor of the state that we used to be. Okay? Now, I don't mean some Donald Trump nostalgia tour back to some time that, frankly, wasn't what he thought it was and doesn't exist in any event anymore. My last NAACP board meeting, I think, was in February in New York City, and President Trump had just been sworn in a few weeks earlier, and someone asked me how the meeting was, how the tone was. I said, well, let's put it this way. There wasn't a whole lot of nostalgia around that table for the good old days in 1955, and that's what we're up against. I mean something differently. I mean a series of words that used to describe us proudly that no longer do. And by the way, this transcends politics. I'm a proud Democrat, let there be no doubt. One of my mentors is Governor Tom Kean. You can look when he was governor. Or Democrats, both sides of the aisle. We have a rich history of doing the right thing. So I'm thinking, what am I thinking of words? Responsible. We were AAA bond rated, for instance, under Governor Kean. We were proudly progressive, among the beacon states in this country. We grew and we were fair. We had leadership that was inclusive. We were known for smart government. One of the benefits of being born and having grown up outside of New Jersey and lived and worked around the world, I've heard what they've said about us behind our backs. And for a long time, it was laudable. I can't tell you how many times you hear, not sure what to do about this particular public policy issue. Let's see what they're doing in New Jersey. Not just New Jersey, but a short list of states, and we were proudly on it. A state that used to do big things. I mentioned Governor Kean, the Transportation Trust Fund. Governor Byrne, the Pinelands. You can look at examples on both sides of the aisle. We did big stuff here. We were civil. We treated each other with respect, even when we didn't agree. And by the way, no two people ever do always agree. Stop right there and just listen to those words. And I'm an optimist, but it is sad but true. None of those words apply to our state today. Not one of them. So I want to raise my hand to be the governor of a state that is once again responsible. I'm not sure we're going to be a AAA bond rated state from Monday to Tuesday, but we can draw a line under the free fall and say, you know what, we're going to build back up from here. A state that is once again a progressive beacon, that does, among other things, that funds Planned Parenthood fully, that respects the Second Amendment, but also signs sensible gun safety laws that keeps our communities safe. I will be a leader who accepts the sad reality of climate change and then puts in place a plan for a 100% clean energy New Jersey. So responsible, progressive, we will grow and we will be fair again. We want to stand again, and we can. With the right leadership and the right priorities, the good news is all of this is attainable again. We'll stand for smart professional government. We'll do big things again. We'll treat each other with respect. Enough of the name-calling again. We will be inclusive. We need leadership, and I want to raise my hand and say I'll be that guy with the help of so many here tonight who will govern on behalf of all 9 million of us, not just some of us. And lastly, a word I'm increasingly drawn to, and that is the word compelling. That we become again a state that's compelling. Whether it's for that young woman who's graduated from college trying to look at where to start her career, or that young couple trying to figure out where to start their family, or that small or medium-sized business trying to figure out where to put their roots down. Or the senior, and we have too many of them all over the state, I suspect right in this room, trying to figure out, do I stay or do I go? That once again, we become the state where folks say, you know what, you've got to look at New Jersey. There's too much going on there. They have got momentum. Something is happening there. You'll make a big mistake if you don't put New Jersey on your list. Now, does that mean we're going to be the low-cost place to live or do business? Probably not, realistically. But it does mean that we will be what we used to be, which is a state which has good value for money. You pay a premium in this state, but you get a rich basket of stuff back. And you say, you know what? It works for me. The problem we have, the premium keeps going up and the basket keeps shrinking. Massachusetts and other states have proven that people will pay a premium if they feel like they're getting a lot back in exchange for that. That, to me, is the realistic place we can get to with the right leadership and the right priorities. And with your support, we will do just that. Now, lastly, I'd love you to follow us. We are at Murphy4NJ.com. Murphy4NJ.com. And if you do follow us, you will see, among other things, that we have to walk and chew gum at the same time. And what do I mean by that? We have to, since January 20th in particular, and others, you could argue since November 8th of last year, we have to, on the one hand, focus laser-like on what it is we need to do to get this state back on its feet. What is under the purview of the responsibility of the governor? And that's job number one. But by the same token, we cannot be silent when our healthcare system is being dismantled before our eyes. And victim state number one would be New Jersey. We will not be silent when they put forth a tax plan that looked like it was written on the back of a cocktail napkin, where victim state number one would be New Jersey. We will not be silent in the face of the assault on our newly arrived immigrant brothers and sisters. By the way, today is the 5th anniversary of DACA. So on behalf of all of our dreamers, they are our children. They are our future. They are Americans, and let's never forget that. And so we can't shirk from standing up and saying things like, you know what, with all due respect, Mr. President, you will not use local and state police to unlawfully frisk people in this state. You will not unlawfully come in and use DACA data against dreamers. You will not unlawfully deport and break up families in this state. We need a governor who has a steel backbone and an attorney general likewise with a steel backbone standing beside him. And I promise you, I will be that governor. And then came this weekend. And then came the question of moral authority. I want to read you a quote. May I do that? I got to find it. There goes the suit. I want to read you this quote. You may have seen it. We should call evil by its name. My brother didn't give his life fighting Hitler for Nazi ideas to go unchallenged here at home. That is a quote. Anyone know who said that? Senator Orrin Hatch. Rock rib, through and through Republican senator from Utah. With all due respect, Mr. President, moral authority is not a relative question. It's pass-fail. Either you have it or you don't. There was an article written a couple of weeks ago, I think it was in the New York Times, by Nobel laureate Robert Schiller. And he talked about the American dream, long before Charlottesville, by the way. And he talked about how it gets talked about constantly, particularly by this president, as a measure of material success. And he reminded in this article that, in fact, the American dream, when it was first born as an idea, was about morality. It was about morality and sort of the principles under which you live your life, not about how many assets you acquire in your life. He didn't say it, but what struck me was it used to be about ideals, And now, under this president, it's become about deals. And that's the sort of migration we're on. So I looked at what happened this weekend. I looked at the remarks, which were late and weak. I looked today. Did anyone see what happened today? Completely lost the plot and undid all of whatever progress he may have made. As an American, like we all are, as a dad, and for me, a little bit more personally, former board member of the NAACP, former United States ambassador in the Federal Republic of Germany, the country where National Socialism was born, where Adolf Hitler came to power, which led to the Holocaust and to World War II. This cuts pretty close to the bone. And by the way, very personally, my wife went to the University of Virginia. She sits on its board, and our daughter is going there next year. And we know that community very well. That is not America. We need leadership which sees moral authority as a black and white question. You don't get a B+ on moral authority. This is a pass-fail test. And I beg and hope and pray that our president somehow gets to that place. I want to say I am beyond thrilled to be with you tonight. I would love to hear what's on your mind. Go Cumberland County. Go Vineland. Thank you so much for hearing me out. Jenny.
Ladies and gentlemen, now comes the fun part, your questions. I'm Jenny Davis. I work with Phil Murphy. And I had the pleasure to be up here tonight with all of you. Please do not yell at me if your question does not get asked. As long as you turn in your question card with information on it so that we may contact you, we will respond to your question. Phil, we have a lot of questions tonight.
I hear you.
So if I can ask the audience members to be brief in their questions and ask Phil to be brief but substantial in your answers, we can get through as many questions as possible.
My money's on the audience and not on me.
Mine too. We're going to have on our microphones tonight Dennis and Denise. Denise is going to be over here taking my microphone.
Where's Denise? I don't see you.
Here she is, coming down.
Hey, Denise.
And
Hi,
that's
Dennis.
it. If you turn in a question card and you don't think you put on contact information on your way out, fill out another one and add your contact information so we may answer you. I'm a great worker, but I cannot figure out your contact information if you don't give it to us. So here we go. Ready for the questions?
Let's go. Thank you, Jenny. Lee Clark's got a question about NJ Transit. Where are you, Lee? Come on, man. Let's go. I'm coming to you, Lee. How we doing, folks? Good? Bruce, you good? Lou? Lee, how are you, buddy? Do you need this?
Yes, please.
No problem.
So my question is, if elected governor, what would your plan be to modernize New Jersey public transit and lower greenhouse emissions?
Okay, let's hear it for Lee, man. Good question. Well done. Who's got the mic, man? Dennis, right to you, buddy. Okay, so this is a key point. The last part. What's going on down there? Is that an orchestra pit? Son of a gun. I feel like I'm in Radio City here. The last part, where'd you go, Lee? The last part of your question relates to the environment, which is not something that gets the front page attention when people talk about transit deficiencies. It's mostly, by the way, rightfully, the summer of hell up north. It's delays, it's fares going up, it's bad customer service, etc. But I'll start with the back of your question. I'm going to be true to what Jenny asked me to be, which is briefer. It has huge implications for the environment. Again, we're the densest state in the nation. We're the fourth smallest. We sit beside two huge markets. The extent to which we can have a completely functioning 21st century transit system, we can make a huge dent. We can convince people to, I'm not going to drive today. And that's not just making what we've got better. That's, Gloucester-Camden light rail. That's Hudson-Bergen light rail. Stuff that isn't built yet. The big tunnel that Governor Christie canceled under the Hudson to New York to get that tunnel built. When you do things like that, not just make better what you've got, but you make new investments, it's a magnet for pulling people out of their cars and onto the transit system, which has a huge impact on greenhouse gas emissions, as you rightfully suggested. What's the plan? The plan's got to be funded, put serious professionals who know the business in leadership positions. It's not continuing to cross wires between the capital budget and the operating budget, so stealing from Peter to pay Paul. It's building that tunnel under the Hudson River, which is desperately needed up north. It's close bi-state cooperation, both in Pennsylvania and in New York in particular. I think, frankly, I'm not suggesting it's easy because the numbers are big. It's frankly a lot of common sense. This is not doctoral calculus, which makes the lack of leadership more shocking because it's not that complicated what happens when you cut funding for your lifeblood by 90%. You get what you pay for. Well done, Lee. I got Emily Waldrick. Is that right, Emily? From Bridgeton? Where are you, Emily? Come on, man. Let's hear it for Emily. How are you?
I'm fine, sir.
Nice to see you. Well, honored. Everybody in this neighborhood good over here? Just checking. Okay. When's the food coming, Denise? You know? Okay, sorry. Snack bar's open till 10. You had a question on the economy.
I do. What are your goals to improve the economy in Cumberland County, the poorest county in New Jersey?
Yeah, amen.
We need jobs.
Amen. Everyone hear that? Let's hear it for Emily. So, Emily, I talked about a couple of the engines already, right? The innovation economy and the economy. So connecting this county more, not just within itself, but across into other communities and counties is important. Reigniting that STEM economy. And there are examples right now in other counties in the state, and there's no reason why we don't have them in this county. And with the right leadership and the freeholders and other officers, constitutional officers and leadership present here, it will happen. It must also be said that this has a big ag element to it, right? So this is a big breadbasket, quote unquote, for the rest of the state. And so making sure, and I spent a lot of time with interests in the farm world and others, getting that economy invested in and having the back of that economy, which folks talk too little about, is got to be a big part of that. Lou will want me to mention this, so Lou, I'll preempt your question. Too many communities could, Bruce, is that you over there, buddy? I didn't see you, pal. How are you? The urban enterprise zones are a big deal in communities like this and others. So getting people, finding smart tax incentives to get traffic and to get community centers and main streets back, getting vibrant again and being creative about that. UEZs are one weapon that we can use. They're not the only one. So getting folks to really, the commerce to get sort of oiled again, I think is a big piece of this. Would you agree with that, gentlemen? And Bruce lives here as well, and he knows it as well as anybody. And, you know, not just the big communities like a Vineland or a Bridgeton or a Millville, but all the what is it, about 14 communities in this county, big and small, getting them, their main streets, putting, if you will, putting chum on the water to attract people to come in. I'm all in for that. Let's hear it one more time. Connor Duca of, I don't know where. I've got your street. I don't want to yell it out, but I'm not sure of the town. Where are you, Connor? Hey, come on, man. Let's go. Hi, Denise. You got a question on the green economy and the Paris Agreement. May I?
Yeah, sure.
Put that right up there, man.
All right, so I was just going to ask what exactly you'll do about climate change since we pulled out of the Paris Agreement. Will you, like, uphold those ideals? What will you exactly do? You know,
Yep.
That's it. Basic question.
That's a good one. Let's hear it for Connor, man. What town are you from? Where's that? All right, man, I love that. So this is a big one. Everyone hear that question, by the way? What are you going to do about the green economy, and what are you going to do about the Paris Accords? So on the Paris Accords, 20 minutes after our president pulled us out, we put 20 minutes, folks, help me out. Is that about right, Derek? We put a release out that said we will join the other states if we're fortunate enough to get elected. By the way, pesky little fact, I have to get elected first, so please help me. We will join the other states and uphold and adhere to the Paris climate accord standards. What else will we do? Just a couple of things on my list. We will rejoin the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative collection of states. We have a plan for a 100% clean energy New Jersey by the year 2050. A particular element of that is a lot of solar and a lot of offshore wind. We believe, based on all input we've gotten from professionals, that we can generate by the year 2030. So 2050, 100% energy, clean energy is a long way off. 2030 is only 13 years. We believe we could generate 3,600 megawatts of offshore wind, which, to put that into sort of simple terms, is enough to power 1.5 million homes. That's serious energy. We have among the most unique offshore wind locations in our country. You know, there's real opportunity for us to be the East Coast California. And I'll tell you something else. If you could put a credible plan forward of 3,600 megawatts in our state, that would make us, among the largest locusts of offshore wind in the world. So you then have the ability to go to the manufacturers and say, we don't just want you to install, this gets back to my Cumberland County economy question, not just install this stuff in New Jersey, we want you to build it in New Jersey. Both of them are good union jobs. There's no reason why they shouldn't be here. Shirley Santos. I love you, Shirley. Where are you? Right in the middle. It's going to be hard to get to you, Shirley. I may have to crowd surf. Do what it takes. No, stay there. Come. Right, Dennis is right behind you. I do need to hand you your question. If you want, you got a question on school funding, so let me pass that over to you.
Okay.
Everyone good here? All right. Just checking.
Yeah, I'm Shirley Santos. I've been a bilingual teacher for 26 years.
Oh, I love you.
And I want to give a shout out to all the teachers that are here
Let's hear
tonight.
from the teachers. What level do you teach, Shirley?
I teach first grade right now,
bless
but
your
I've
heart.
taught in 26 years a couple of grade levels. So.
6-year-olds, man.
Love them.
Oh, I love that.
So my question has to do with, of course, educational funding. I wanted to know what is your stand on that, and what are your plans to ensure that students have everything they need to be successful in their education?
Let's hear it for Shirley and all the teachers in the house. Dennis will take the microphone. I'll take the card. Shirley, thank you so much. Yay. Come on, man. I love that. Talk about being known by the company you keep. Am I proud to keep that company? So we have listen, if you listen to the other guys, by the way, is the name of the Murphy family's favorite movie, by the way, I have to say. If you listen to the other side of the aisle, you would be led to believe that the school funding formula is broken. Okay, that's what you'd be led to believe. You'd also be led to believe a bunch of other things. If you have affordable housing in your community, property values will go down. If you have earned sick leave, worker morale will go down. If you raise minimum wage, unemployment will ensue. And there are models and studies all over the planet and the country that push back on everything I've just said, including this notion that the formula has failed. The formula has never been funded by this governor and lieutenant governor. So let's just accept that that's the fact. Again, another pesky fact. I hate to throw facts in here. Occasionally, science, facts. Let's take what's actually in front of us and make our decisions based on that. And so the school funding formula is the only school formula in the history of our state that's been blessed by our state Supreme Court, I believe in 2008. It was viewed at the time, I mentioned that New Jersey used to be known for doing big things that the country looked at. This is one of them, known to be a landmark formula because it migrated from money-chasing districts to money-following students. And it acknowledged that not every kid is born with the same set of luck or same set of circumstances. So it asked questions that we would all hope that would be asked. You know, what's the nature of your household? How many parents, if any, do you have? What's the first language spoken at home? Free or reduced lunch as a measure, as a proxy for poverty. Do you have special education needs, etc.? And so it built it from the bottom up. This governor has underfunded that formula by, I think I'm being charitable, $8.5 billion at this point, and the clock is going up by the day. So one of the things we've said is, and by the way, there are a lot of other challenges you all know better than I in the field of education, but the one variable that is loose is the money. And until you tie the money down, you won't know what else you need to do to tweak the system, to get it in the right place. So we have said, and we're committed, as painful as it may be, we will fully fund the school funding formula. And then we'll figure out how we go from there. 3 more questions, Jenny? Okay, hold on a second. David Acosta from Vineland. David, how are you, man? Good. I'll do that one for you. Thank you very much. How are you, sir?
Good.
You got a question on state pensions, another easy topic.
What is your position regarding the state pension system? Are you ready to fully fund it?
Let's hear it one more time for David. Thank you. David, are you in the system?
Yes.
You are too? So what did you do? Are you still working?
Yes, but I was in the Division of Gaming Enforcement and the casino industry.
Got it. Division of Gaming and Enforcement. I took the microphone too early. And you are?
I work for the Department of Human Services, Division of Developmental Disabilities, Community Services, and right now I'm working back on the grounds of the Developmental Center.
Holy mackerel, Andy. That's a mouthful.
35
35 years. Okay. So here's the deal. The background, this is another one that's not easy. The background for me on this one is on pensions. I mentioned this in passing, but I'll just underscore it again. I chaired the original commission on pension and health care benefits for public sector employees in this state 12 years ago. And there's a report, people refer to it as the Murphy Report. I'd encourage you all to look it up. It's available online and see what you think. We thought it was a big problem then, and now we've had 12 more years of largely inaction. You'll see recommendations, but recommendation number 1 is no more pension holidays. The state must meet its obligations. Now, why? By the way, that ain't going to be easy. That's not going to be easy. So we got to get ourselves on that path ASAP. Why? Well, obviously, public sector employees have been left at the altar. This is now a crisis that's been building for 20 years. So while this governor has kicked the can hard and far down the road, he isn't the first. So this is not one you can unwind overnight. But you all have been left at the altar, time and again asked to do more, promises made, promises broken. In the bigger sense, and this is sort of a bigger drama in this state right now, it's another descriptor that used to apply to us that does not at the moment, is we're not trusted. Public sector employees don't trust us. The rating agencies I mentioned earlier don't trust us. Young people, by the way, we lead the nation in exporting high school seniors to college, and then we lead the nation again in exporting college seniors to work per capita. At one level, you wear that as a badge of honor. The world wants our kids. I'd like our kids to stay home, at least some of them. And so this is not just about finding the money to meet the obligation for the pension shortfall and for the individuals who are being impacted. It's about the broader question of trust. Is this a state that we can trust again? And it ain't going to be easy, and it will not be pain-free. But if nothing else, we will get us back to that place where people say, you know what? If you make a deal with New Jersey, a deal's a deal. You can rely on it. Thanks for that question. I wish I didn't have to wear glasses. I just wanted to say that for the record. Leonardo Geronimo. Are you here, Leonardo? Leonardo, how are you, man? You had a question. Undocumented is the title of yours. May I give this to you?
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
All right. My question is, as a governor, how will you be supportive of and work on behalf of the undocumented community.
Okay, let's hear it one more time for Leonardo. This is a big one, right? Particularly with this president. So I've already begun to answer your question, but I'll underscore a couple of points maybe to amplify it. Number one, this is the 5th anniversary of DACA. So we have to protect that data and protect dreamers and make sure that that data is not, that data which they gave so willingly in the Obama administration is not used against them. Secondly, we need a governor who has a steel backbone, who will stand up to this president and say, again, I said this already, you will not use our state and local police to unlawfully frisk people, throw dreamers out, break up families. We have gone on record and said that we would establish an Office of Immigrant Defense at the State House. So this would be a single point of contact for anybody, regardless of their status, who could go to the State House if they've got a question, largely with legal help, but beyond that, and get help, and not stigmatized. Before Trump got elected and before he became president, there's another basic set of stuff that we are committed to, that we talked about a lot, and we're still committed to. Unfortunately, the Trump stuff has drowned this out. So we have said that we would stand for statewide identification cards for everybody, regardless of status. Access to driver's licenses, regardless of status. And in-state financial aid for dreamers, not just access to in-state tuition. So those are a quick set of things, Leonardo. Love you, man. Any one more? Let me just see here. And then I got one thought I want to leave you with. Eric Meltzer, Mount Laurel, New Jersey. Where are you, Eric? Come on, man. Dennis is going to get you on that side. You got a question about our reputation.
Yeah.
First of all, I got to come behind you. Excuse me, Dennis. Anybody got a camera down there? We're almost done. Okay, Eric, let's go. What do you got?
Well, one of my friends who recently visited Arizona, and when one of the people there found out they went to Arizona, they were from New Jersey, the first question they asked is, are the bridges still closed and are the beaches still closed? How will you bring New Jersey's good name back to the country?
I love that. God help us. Smart kid, man. Is this yours? Yeah. Come on, man. Hey, Dad, how are you? Let's hear it for Eric. It is so true. Even these jerks at the Boston Globe, I'm from Massachusetts, talked about Trump spending his 2 weeks in the land of spray tans or something. I don't play tennis, but I think this is, by the way, what you would call unforced errors. I think we've brought a lot of this onto ourselves, right? So we had a governor, with the assent, apparently, of the lieutenant governor. They closed the George Washington Bridge. It's the busiest bridge in the world. In the world. Not even in New Jersey, New York, America, the world. You shut the government down, and you have the chutzpah to go to the beach by yourself. With your family, I guess, right? Really? Yes. And, you know, at one level it's funny. At one level politically, it certainly hadn't hurt me or anybody on my side of the aisle who are here tonight, I can tell you that much. But on another level, it isn't funny. It is about our reputation. And so I mentioned the question of trust, but what I didn't use another word, and that is respect. That we find that balance again, which we used to have, by the way. Whether, you know, you pick who it was, whether it was the Sugar Hill Gang, or Frankie Valli, or Sinatra, or Bon Jovi, or Springsteen, or you pick your athlete, or your political leader, or your community leader. We used to have that sort of the attitude, a toughness. People respected us, but we also could laugh at ourselves. And we're not in, we don't have that space at the moment. And so that's another reason. While it's funny, let's get that behind us. Let's get back to a place where people say, you know what? They have a good time. They have incredible attitude. You know, that Jersey attitude? Nobody's got that. I've lived and worked around the world. Nobody can touch us. Let's get all that stuff back up on a pedestal. And by the way, celebrate our diversity. We're the most diverse state in the nation. Let's lead with that. Let's wear that as a badge of honor. Listen, I'm going to close this out because it's a school night. I'm going to go home and turn 60 later on tonight. But I want to tell you, I'm incredibly honored you guys would be here tonight. I would say this, that are we ready? Are we ready? Okay, you ready for this? Al Alvarez, you here? Estamos listo. Together we can do this, right? Together we will win the election. We'll govern the state, more importantly. We'll get us back to the place we know we can be. Juntos podemos. Everybody, it's an incredible honor to be here. Would you mind if I came back? I would love that if I could. I love you all. Thank you all for hearing me out tonight. And finally, and most importantly, que Dios te bendiga. Good night, everybody.